So, Angela, thank you for joining us on Pivoting Pharmacy with Nutrigenomics today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm honored to be here.
You are welcome. Now, I'm looking forward to learning a lot from you because you have a lot of information for busy professionals out there. But first, can you take us back a little bit and let us know where you started at to how did you get to where you are now?
Okay, I'll try to say this very quickly, but I want to do it justice because truly my inspiration for what I do and why I do largely stems from, unfortunately, a traumatic event, and that was the death of my mother when I was 13. And she was only 42 and she had a massive stroke. And one of the things, two things I learned from that experience. One, I learned how important physical health is, but also how important mental health is. My mom was genetically thin. She looked fit. However, she was, I learned later, pretty much a walking catastrophe, really, because she had really high blood pressure. She was extremely stressed, and she was not taking very good care of herself. She was also a smoker. And then, one day she's there, and the next day she's not. I'm literally holding her while she's having a stroke. So a really traumatic event. But I tell you what was really significant was after she passed, and as I was going through her items, I saw that she had been writing notes to herself. Need to get my life together, very depressed. And she had been writing these notes throughout all of her. She used to carry this little calendar, like a little handheld calendar where she would, record her appointments. And that's what she was writing in those appointments. Very depressed, need to get life together. And the reason why that was such a significant event for me was because then I understood that my mom was not only physically unwell, but also mentally unwell. And she had been that way for quite some time. You fast forward several years, I actually, first let me backtrack. So after my mother died, I started running track. And the track coach came up to me and he said, "You're going to get a full track scholarship to school." And why that was so significant was because when I started running track, I recognized that it helped me deal with my grief. And I recognized that when I was running track, I also wanted to eat well. And so I noticed that from a strong place, from a healthier place, I was better able to deal with my grief. And then years later, I had a brother that died by suicide. So again, I was reminded of the importance of mental health. And what I recognized from that situation is that you can literally feel mentally okay, and then a series of events can put you in a very difficult place. And literally, you can feel like you want to be here one day and not necessarily the next day. So, to explain what led me here are those stories, is recognizing the importance of mental and physical health and recognizing what you can do as an individual from a proactive standpoint to stabilize, to ground yourself, but also to position yourself to be in a healthier place so that when life situations, circumstances happen, you're able to do so from a healthier way. And that's why I do what I do, because I recognize as a trainer, as a therapist, as a person, to the wellness professional, I want to provide the tools, the education, the resources so that people can be mentally and physically healthy.
Thank you for sharing your personal story with us, Angela. And it makes sense as to why you have this trifecta of expertise when it comes to mental health, physical training, and overall well being based on your personal experience. I know you bring a wealth of value to those that you help because you've been there and you're able to relate to them more. So you definitely are a great resource and tool for those that in those lives that you touch. So I want to ask you a question about integrating these different parameters, like the mental health, the physical, into people's lives. Are there any misconceptions that you come across when you talk to people that they may have, especially busy professionals, that they may have when it comes to integrating health or even fitness and maybe even nutrition into their lives?
Yeah, I would say many busy professionals believe that they're too busy to do it. And they believe that it's something that is optional. And as it relates to health, it's not optional because you cannot function from an unhealthy, unstable, unbalanced place. You may think that you're able to function within that, but really you're not able to. You may appear that you are, but to be effective and productive and to do the best, be the best within what you do need to be healthy. And I believe in all those different components, mental, physically, and nutritionally. And if you are not integrating healthy lifestyle strategies throughout your day as you are striving in your profession, as you're striving in your personal life, as you're striving towards success in both those areas, if you're not taking care of yourself, I think you're truly fooling yourself. You're thinking that you're going to be successful, but I think once you attain that success, what you're going to find is you're going to have sickness. And if you're not taking care of yourself and your relationships and nurturing your body as well, you're making that journey towards success a lot more difficult. So that I would say is probably the biggest misconception is that it's optional, and it's not.
It's definitely not. And unfortunately, some would wait until it's too late when they're physically having the symptoms, like say symptoms of burnout or depression. Because as you mentioned earlier in your personal story, having that physical activity with track really helped you deal with those situations. And so in the same sense, being physically active and not waiting until it's too late, and taking the time to do what they have to do so that they can maintain their health is very important. And along those lines, what would you advise somebody who is coming to you with, say, burnout, or are there any mental health techniques that you believe are very helpful?
Yes, I would definitely say, well, the thing about burning out is usually you're at that point because you um, failed to recognize or ignore the signals along the way. So you recognize that you were overwhelmed, you recognize that you were stressed, you recognize that you were anxious, you recognize that you were fatigued. But oftentimes you kept pushing beyond the boundaries. You allowed lines to be crossed, and you really did not take the necessary breaks along the way. And so you feel completely burned out because literally you have nothing left. You have nothing left to give. And I would say that uh, one of the things that I've recognized with the many clients that I've worked with is really looking at what are your tendencies. So when you wake up in the morning and you start your day, do you even start your day in a stressful way, or do you start yourself sleeping past the alarm clock? Do you find yourself rushing out the door? Are you rushing to work? Are you overscheduled? Do you have an unrealistic to-do list? And are you trying to achieve the unachievable each and every day, and not realizing how you're kind of setting yourself up to be burned out? And so, truly, that's, I think, the work that I would say that I do, I think, very effectively with my clients is helping them understand, what are unhealthy tendencies that lead you towards burnout, and how can we create a different way of thinking and a different way of behaving that allows you to think and behave in a healthier way so that you can decrease the likelihood that you'll be burned out.
I like that advice, Angela, or that approach, taking a look at what they're already doing that's contributing to that burnout. Because most people would say, oh, just take a break. But you're taking a different approach and saying, let's look at what is being done right now that could be changed, versus just because they can take a break, but then they're going to go back to doing what they usually do anyway and end up in this vicious cycle, right?
Yeah, and some people don't know how to take a break. The idea of taking a break is shifting from one task to another. And so, example, so say you have a meeting, okay, you're finished with their meeting. A break would be like getting up, walking away from the desk, going outside, taking a walk, or maybe if you're in your home and you're working from home, taking a 5 or 10 minute break, completely disconnecting. It wouldn't be going on your cell phone. It wouldn't be looking at text messages. It wouldn't be responding to emails. It wouldn't be maybe doing some other type of task like in your home or in your office. It would literally mean taking a break. And so understanding, like, what is a break?
I'm
What is it?
listening to you and I'm like, okay, maybe I don't know what a break is either. But yeah, you make a great point. We're not disconnecting.
No, no, no. And I will say that some of the work that I do, well, oftentimes a lot of the work that I do with clients is even defining like what are breaks? What are breaks for you? What are hard stops? Is I recommend to my clients that they have hard stops. So times when you completely disconnect, you're not working, you're not even in your workspace. You're in a totally different area. If you're, like I say, if you're working from home, you have designated areas where you work and designated times. And when you are stopping, you're taking a break, or when you're doing your hard stop, you literally remove yourself from that space. And the reason why that's so important, because oftentimes we blur that space. If you're working and doing work, say at the kitchen table, and you also do a lot of other things at the kitchen table, it may be very hard to distinguish when you're working and when you're eating and when you're taking a break. You see, so that's why it's so
Yeah,
important. What is it that you do, and what are the things that we need to change or maybe adjust so that you can do it more effectively?
I love that. I love that. Absolutely. Now, what is, and I'm gonna admit I'm guilty of that at work. It's I work in a hospital pharmacy, so we're at a computer most of our shift. And then it's like, okay, you can take a break, but I'll take a break at the computer. Like, even if it's off, I'm still there. But I can see how, like, physically removing removing yourself from that environment, from that workspace, can start reprogramming your mind and your habits to truly, and so that you truly feel like you've rested, you've
Yeah,
disconnected. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah, and oftentimes when you come back, you'll have more mental clarity. You'll be able to focus more. You'll be more in a more relaxed state. So it really does set you up for um, even for being even more productive from that point after the break as well.
yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I want to switch gears back a little bit to touch more on the physical activity, physical training part of it. You are a master trainer with the from the National Academy of Sports Medicine, correct?
Yes, that is
Now,
correct.
what's a commonly held belief about exercise or physical training? I know earlier you mentioned that busy professionals feel like they don't have time to do it, right? But aside from that, are there any other misconceptions that you've come across that people have when it comes to physical training that you find yourself debunking?
Yeah, I would say that you have to do a whole lot to achieve results, and that you have to spend a lot of time exercising. Really, and one of the things, so let me clarify. So, I am a corrective exercise specialist as well as performance enhancement specialist, group personal trainer, and personal trainer. Trained for decades. Now, and I was one of those people that was very guilty of thinking that you had to exercise for extreme times. But one, partly too, I would say because I loved it so much, and so I would spend a lot of time in the gym. But then once, and that's also as an athlete. But then when I had kids, my time became very limited, and so I had to become very. And this was even before I started training. I had to become really mindful of how to best utilize my time when I was exercising. So how could I get a short, effective workout in the shortest amount of time so I could return back and take care of my kids. And so and then when I started training, really funny, I recognized that I was doing a lot of things that I had been previously taught. And so my understanding of exercise was very limited. It wasn't until I really stretched myself and stepped out of the box. And I was working with many different clientels with many different fitness levels, many different roles and responsibilities, and many different demands on their time. That I recognized that even though these different people had different limitations and had different time restraints and different responsibilities, one thing I understood was the same, that those core things that you want to work on, muscular strength, muscular endurance, cardiorespiratory efficiency, balance, flexibility, I think I said it all, uh, were what all of those people needed to achieve. Now, how they achieved it may have to change, or may have to be adjusted. But in achieving those 7 elements would lead to a very healthy, physically healthy body. But understanding that you didn't need to do a lot of hours and hours of training, it has to be consistent. It has to be with knowledge and understanding of how to sequence the exercises for an effective workout. And it also has to be something that you're able to do within your fitness level.
Yeah, those are good points. Absolutely true. It reminds me of, I think more when you were talking more of like their workout routine or physical activity being more customized to them, because everyone is different. And I find that it's important for people to find something that they feel that they can keep up with and keep doing versus doing what everyone else is doing. Because that's the goal. You mentioned consistency, right? And so it doesn't have to be a whole hour, but as whatever it is, they need to be consistent in it. And it's easier for them to be consistent if it's something that they feel is doable or they enjoy doing. So great points.
And I would say too, I've noticed that many times people don't know what to do when they're exercising or why they're doing it. And if you can provide education as well as, I would say, inspiration, and motivation to continue, that will help with the consistency, because a person feels like, well, I'm inspired and motivated to exercise, and now I know how to, and I have the tools to do it and do it in an efficient, effective way. So I'm not wasting my time, and also so that I'm getting the results that I want.
Right. And one of those tools, we have a lot of tech now, apps you can download, watches that keep track of everything. You have wearables, you have apps, you have telehealth. Do you think that technology is making it easier or more complicated when people want to achieve their goals?
That's a great question. I think I think it can be used as a way to kind of track your progress. I think it can be. I think it can make it more complicated than it needs to be. I really do, because I do feel like oftentimes, like for instance, I think about when I'm training, when I used to train, and I don't train like individuals as much as I used to, but I remember, initially, like you'd come and you would do your workout, and then you would just kind of go. And now oftentimes you see people are like, okay, got to get everything set up, got to make sure that it's logging everything. And I find that can cause you to get a little distracted, because you're like, instead of exercising, you're watching to see if it's tracking, you're watching to see what your heart rate is. You're watching to see all these different things, and I feel like you may be actually creating some additional stress that doesn't need to accompany your workout. So I would say yes, it's good, but then also think, like everything can be good, but used in the wrong way, it can be bad.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah, I can see how it can be, because I was doing my there's a hot sauna gym. There's nothing but hot sauna, and you can do yoga in it, Pilates. They have the rowing machine, the cycling machine. So I went this morning and did the cycling. And since it's 130 degrees in there, so it's only a 15-minute workout. And I was looking at my watch, like, oh, what's my heart rate?
Do you understand, right? Right now, imagine if you didn't have that, and you were just, you were in the moment. You said you were rowing.
I was cycling.
Yeah, and you were just biking and not really thinking about it. And see, and then it took away from the moment, right?
Yeah. But then again, part of it was kind of like, okay, wow, this workout feels really intense today. Where's my heart rate at? So for me, it's like a mental note to know, okay, I feel like this when my heart rate is whatever, what it was. It was like 160. But yeah.
And I think that would be a good example of how that could be used as a safety measure, a way of making sure that your heart rate is where you want it to be, and that you're not getting into an unsafe zone.
Yeah.
And recognizing, like, wow, I'm feeling a little different than I normally would, why? But being able to like look at it very quickly and get right back into the zone would be ideal.
Right. That would be ideal. Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you for your insights on technology and health and the pros and cons of using it. Now, I'm going to go back a little bit to your story and overcoming trauma with health. Now, you have your newsletter, right? Healing from a Place of Health.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I recognized some years ago that my healing process was being impeded because I was healing from a place of hurt. I was a victim and not a victor, and I was defining myself by the traumatic experiences that I had, as opposed to being um, motivated by them, inspired by them.
Mm.
And I recognized that in order to truly heal and to get to a healthier place in my life, I was going to have to heal from a place of health. And oftentimes we feel that, especially when we've had a significant number of traumatic experiences, that our traumatic experiences limit us and that they keep us from attaining our goals and achieving success in all areas of our life. And it can, if you don't look at it from the right way, and if you don't understand that when you're healthier, you're able to deal with those things from a much stronger place than if you are focusing on the things that hurt you. So I say focus on what you can do to strengthen you and stabilize yourself, and you will be better able to deal with anything that hurts you. So
Mm.
that is, and I share my story in that newsletter because I do recognize that some people feel like they're alone and that no one understands what it's like to have, that feeling that is at times overwhelming to you, feelings that you can't get through it. And I'm a living example that you can get through it, but you have to do it from a healthy place.
Yeah, from a place of hurt, from a place of health, not a place of hurt. And
Mhm.
that's very empowering. And your shirt says empowered, so I see why.
Yeah.
Yeah, to not be that victim, right? But to be empowered, and in that you can make the changes and move forward. Move forward in coping and getting yourself where you need to be, whether it's mentally or physically. So healing from a place of health. Check out Angela's newsletter. Now, your philosophy is your health is my purpose. That is a powerful statement, Angela. And so, how does this philosophy shape the way you interact with your clients and drive the programs that you create for them?
It drives it completely, because I really do. I believe I was purposed and created to help people become healthy.
Mm.
I really do. And it's interestingly, when I look over all the different things that I've had to experience and overcome, and that I am still overcoming, I do believe I was allowed to experience those things so that I could help individuals in many different facets of their life, from a place of um, understanding, not that my situation is exactly yours, but that I can help you become the greatest version of yourself. But I understand that that can be very challenging because sometimes we want to be better, sometimes we want to do better, but we don't feel like we know how to do better. And so I do believe I was purposed and created to help you figure it out, to help you figure out um, those things that have impeded you, maybe for many years of your life, maybe for almost your whole life. How is it, can I be a greater version of myself, and is it possible? And I'm here to say yes, it's possible, but I'm here to help you so you don't have to do it by yourself. I'm here to
Right.
support your journey.
Okay. So many people need support like that. And so
Mhm.
it's when there are people out there like you who are coming from experience, coming from I've been there, I can relate to you. They need someone like that in their corner. So lastly, Angela, what's one piece of advice that you would offer listeners today, right now, after they listen to this interview? What's one step that they could take towards better health?
Take the first step.
Oh, I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, take the first step. And if you're already taking steps towards your health, continue to take the steps, and know that eventually you will get to where you want to go. as long as you make the commitment that you're worth the time and effort, because you are. You are significant to this world. You're important to this world. You were uniquely and magnificently created to serve a divine purpose, and only you can fulfill that purpose. And so just take the steps. Take the first step if you haven't taken a step, and continue to take the steps.
Yes, thank you for that, Angela. That's great advice. I love that. Just take that first step. Very powerful and absolutely necessary. Now, I'm sharing my screen. Angela, do you see it? No? Okay. I was trying to share my screen to show those who are watching the podcast where they can see you at. Are you seeing it from your end?
I am, yes.
Are, okay. So Angela, I have your website up, empoweredbyangela.com. Is this a good place for listeners or viewers to visit you at and get in touch?
Yes, most definitely. Yeah, they can find everything on there. My podcast, they can find access to my blog, programs, services, all of that is on there.
Okay, 1 second, because that is not. All right, we'll take care of that. I'm going to edit all that out. So it's part of the video things. I need a second person to do this for me. Eventually that will happen. Okay. Well, Angela, thank you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. And you're a great resource for those professionals who are ready to focus and need to focus on their mental health, their physical health, so that they can avoid burnout and start enjoying life, there's so much out there. And so our health is very important. And thank you for being part of that process.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you so much.